And all right, so let's just go back to where we're at with the session. I might just try one more thing out before
Okay.
we go through. Turn up volume.
No one's coming there. Good about
No
anything.
one's coming into the chat. So can everyone jump into the chat and just make sure you can hear me okay? I'm really sorry about this. And I had everything all set, ready to go. Not hearing anything. Okay, all right. So
No, I think that's just.
right, so I'm gonna pull that out. Okay, can you hear me now? Can everyone hear me now as I'm talking into the speaker? If you could put some comments into the chat box, that'd be absolutely fantastic. Righto. No, okay, so we're going to continue on, right? So today's session, what we're going to cover is understanding the world we live and work in today, how best practice HR can grow your business, and what can HR do to protect your business. Righto. So let's get into a little bit about myself. I'm the owner of Key Business Advisors. Absolutely love what I do. We've been operating now for 18 years as of February,
Yeah.
and we have 14 staff who now. So we've grown in the last couple of years, Al,
Yeah.
and we're now at a stage where I'm about to release a book. So
Very
that's
exciting.
going to be very exciting as we go through. Tell us a bit about yourself, Al.
So yes, I think we're swapping. Okay. I've actually been in HR for 18 years. My profile hasn't been updated probably. And I have been exposed to multiple industries and not too dissimilar to Colin. I absolutely love what I do. So I love helping businesses and make sure that they are compliant, but also do best practice and proactive stuff as well.
Wonderful. Okay, so who are we? Well, we're key business advisors. You know, our mission is to take business from good to great. Our purpose is to take a customer on a journey through all aspects of employee engagement performance. And our values are all about integrity, passion, commitment, collaboration, accountability. And these are our stepping stones
Mm.
of what we actually do. And how we do it, I think, is really, really important. So when we get together with our clients, what we do is we make sure that we go through a discovery process, we identify their needs, we design a solution that works for them, we deliver, and we don't deliver it individually, we deliver as a team, and there's an ongoing support all the time. And as it says there, our Google review speaks for itself. So today's webinar is it's really about, if I can say, your leadership and development. It's about how you can become better at what you do, and making sure that you're in a situation where you're constantly learning and growing within your company. So our very first topic is about understanding the world we live and work in today. So I'm just going to go with this slide, and I think what it is leave the door open. Leave the door open. That's what the echo is the door. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so mental health, right? So if you think about mental health, Al, yeah,
It's huge. It's huge.
talk to us about what
Yeah.
comes through our business on a weekly basis.
We get more mental health claims now than any other injury.
Yeah.
So more than any physical injury, we get mental health. So we get psychosocial injury claims, and it can be either through work cover or fair work. It could be like we've got just the main words there that we hear on a regular basis. So somebody's had a tragedy, and that could even be at work. You might be first responders, stress, anxiety, depression, blame, moods, images that they're exposed to, abusive, disrespectful workplaces, and on it goes. These are just the main words that we hear on a weekly basis as well. So
Yep.
yeah,
Well, this morning at 8 a.m., I had a phone call from a client, right?
yeah,
And basically, the person said, that this person screamed, yelled, went on a rage to them over something that happened within the business. And he didn't know how to approach it or how to have a
No.
conversation. So again, this is what we live in on a daily basis. And,
Yeah.
what we're all about, what HR is all about is, I call it professionalize and what is best practice. So, we treat people and how we want to be treated. And this is going to become a very big issue this year for many businesses. So when we talk about, setting the tone right, I just think it's really important that we set the tone right with company expectations. So, again, business strategy, anyone who's been on one of my webinars, I'll know that strategy is everything. It's all about the strategy. It's all about the communication of what you're trying to do and where you want to take your company to go and grow. It's about continuous improvement and those positive outcomes that we're trying to look for in the business. And that's about business performance and making sure that we've actually got that going. It's about taking ownership and delivering on expectations. And that's the owner, that's the manager, it's the leader, it's also all the staff within the business. It's about achieving company financial results. And without financial results, we can't have a business. Without customers, we can't have a business. But again, we're trying to achieve the targets, the revenue targets that we need to do to stay in business. And every business is the same, slightly different. But at the end of the day, we all have to have some sort of financial result within a business. And the big one for me is around, that knowledge and attitude. So people have the knowledge, it's how they share the knowledge, it's how they learn together, experience together. And we want to make sure they've got people with the right attitude within a company.
It leads to the culture.
It leads to the culture. Teamwork and culture, as it says itself, and it's satisfying customers. Because without customers, we really don't have a business. So it's very, very important to ensure that we've got these key drivers that are happening in the business. And then it's about those, that team expectations. So maybe, Al, you take us through this, please.
Yeah, so it's not just the business. Obviously, you need to have the expectations of your team. We've just listed here the key drivers that we believe contribute to good culture. So it's working together as one team.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that means you've got one department or lots of departments, at the end of the day, you all work for the same business. So it's all one team. And it's how to collaborate together in those situations. Be cohesive, where everyone trusts each other. That's probably one of the hardest things to get through, but once you've got that trust, it becomes a lot better. Sharing your knowledge and experiences, which is something that we live and breathe by here every week. Learning, training and development, creating positive outcomes. And the lucky last, but not the least, would be the recognition and praise. So make sure that the team always get the recognition that they deserve and praise when it's necessary and worthy as well.
Yeah, and I think it's also, we talk about in the strategy stuff about, just that communication back to your team every quarter.
Yeah.
We recommend we do it ourselves. We shut down, we reflect on what we achieved last quarter. What are we working on next quarter? It's all about that openness, that communication, and that big one of trust, I think is really, really important. So, so when we talk about individual expectations, so, I'm an owner and, what we're going to make sure is how our staff come to work is about how they feel, which links back to that very first slide that I went through around mental health. Staff want to come to work and they want to feel valued. They want to feel appreciated and supported. They want to do meaningful work. And this is a saying you always say.
I love my job.
Yeah. Because it's always challenging. There's always something happening. It's always something going on. Understanding the job role, which is role clarity. So I think is very, very important. And then that big one of that learning and development, developing them to grow. So I know that if I'm not, fueling the brain, putting positive stuff into my team, I expect them to do the same. I want them to listen to podcasts, read books, and interact with one another. But it's all about learning and development, and I think is where it is. That recognition and praise, I think, comes up. And again, we want to recognise people for going above and beyond or doing something special. Don't have to be recognition and praise for someone just come to work on time. That's not how it works. Yeah. And then, that big one around being rewarded for effort. So, what does that look like? Is that a luncheon? Is that gift vouchers? Is that, a bit of time out? It all blends the same. The big one is, I always talk about, staff's needs. And if I can just go to a comment that I've got in my book, I once ran a session and I asked this managing director a question, what's really important to you in your business? And normally I get hitting the targets, making money, big financial results, the team. But this particular person said to me one day, Colin, what's important to me is when a staff member goes home and their partner says, how was your day at work today? That that person doesn't bag my brand, myself as the leader of the
Yeah.
business, a colleague, or even or a client. Because if that happens, then that person's then going to coach their partner to leave. And again, I think it's really important that we need to always be looking at, you know, how we're looking after our staff's needs, and pay is important. I want to say that, right? But it is also about the environment you create. We want them to come to work because they want to come to work, not because they have to come to work. And this is becoming very challenging for businesses
Right.
to try and get that culture right. And especially when, and I'm not against it, people working from home that don't want to be part of the team, that actually just want to work alone. So again, that's also a bit of a curly one out there. But it's how you get the team together, and it's about how you actually make them feel that they're actually wanted in the business. And then we talk about leadership. So, Al, you'll take us through this.
Yeah. So leadership, part of their responsibilities and things that they can do to help with the team alignment is being a cohesive team and help to build that trust with each other, as per the previous slide. Have good conversations and achieve collective results. So make the guidelines and the targets really clear.
Yep.
Getting committed and having everyone on the same page, not too dissimilar to this previous comment.
Yep.
Having accountability where people can take their own ownership. So don't micromanage, but make sure that people know what is expected of them, and then make sure that they can follow through. Produce the results and celebrate the wins. We're all big on celebrating the wins here.
Yep.
Deliver on customer and company outcomes as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's the alignment. But I think the ownership is a really good question there, or good comment. And the accountability. I shouldn't have to hold you accountable. You hold yourself accountable.
Correct.
And if you're working with a colleague and work on a project together, I don't have to actually hold you accountable. You hold each other accountable to complete the project. And that's what really good culture is. And this is what HR best practice does do if you've got the alignment and everything right, which we'll go into
And that
shortly.
goes into the trust.
It does, 100%. Yeah. And if you talk about company and team culture, and this is the thing, no one wants to work in a toxic environment. Yeah.
No.
The phone call I got this morning was, I don't want to be here, right? I don't want to actually be part of this business. What do I do? And I've told them, you need to go and have the conversation. Say, the way you spoke to me, the way you treat me is, I'm now questioning. I don't want to be here, right? And again, if there is a toxic environment, you've got to squash it. And, we hear it, like toxic, it happens. It happens with colleagues in the business. It happens between business partners. It happens with, certain different people within the business who don't get along. But we've got to make sure, that is ruled out because of the psychosocial, the mental health that we spoke about.
I think it's
before.
also important to say that was a very senior member of the business. So it's not just the lowest, right? It can still happen to the higher level senior managers as well. So
yep. And as we say in the book, in the book that I'm referring to, and we always talk about this, what does success look like for the company? What does it look like for the team? What does it look like for the individual, right? So again, it's about how we actually might try and create that. So I can't echo this enough. Every business we go to and speak to, we talk about the journey, the pathway that you create, where you're taking the business, what does it look like over the next 3, 6, 12 months, even 2 years, 3 years? You're constantly reminding the team about, what we're doing to try and grow the business. You've got to be in what I call growth mode or sustain mode, if that's what it is. Because if you're in reactive mode, that can create the toxic environment. And I think, again, we talk about celebrating the wins. We always look at the positive of everything. And, I go into companies. I did a heap of sales training last week with quite a few companies. And again, back in the day when I was in that game, if you miss the target, you failed. Whereas today, it's about the gap. What could we have done to bridge the gap? What could we do as a company? What could you have done as an individual? And again, if we've got real good accountability there, most of the time, the team will tell you what they could have done to try and bridge that gap. So recognition and praise is important, and that team building exercise, I think, is just massive, right?
100%.
Yeah, and that could be, there's various different things for team building exercises. But again, we talk about people and culture. This is really, really important. We've done disc profiles. We've gone 10-pin bowling. We've gone to wineries. We've gone out for dinners, lunches. We've had a barbecue. We've even brought in Elvis, as a bit of a entertainment at our Christmas party. But all of that is about team building. It's all about getting to know one another. And I think it's really, really important is, if you have an environment where the culture is that people have got general interest in one another, I think it's really, really important. And then supporting and empowering one another to succeed. We don't want to see people fail. And unfortunately, we go into companies, especially you and the HR team, where, people are trying to deliberately make other people fail, which, is just not great for the culture and it's not great for the business. And, before this webinar, just to put it out there, we're doing a thing in our company at the moment called the Lift Project, which is all about people's well-being. It's about, life in general, working together with each other. And, we just listen to, 20 minutes of videos, every Monday, a bit of a learn and lunch, and we collaborate, and talk about what we get out of it. Bless you.
Thank you.
So again, that is all part of, for myself, and my wife, Lorraine, we're always trying to think about how we can create things or do things that's going to make our team feel super valued in what we do. So when you think about it, where would you rather work, right? Would you rather work in organisation A or organisation B?
Has to be A.
Has to be A, right? And again, this is a very, very good segue into our next topic because, again, you've got to have goals. We talked about it. We've got to look at ways to improve. We've got to give that feedback. We've got to give that recognition. And we've got to make sure that we're all aligned because if we've got things like it's in number B, where things are mismatched, policy mismatched, disgruntled employees, no feedback, no recognition, things are one-sided, then that makes it really, really challenging. And people come to us, that have got an organisation B, and there's a few of them on this webinar today, and we've told them it's going to take you, a good 12 to 18 months, if not 2 years, to turn this around. And they go, how does it happen? Well, we'll go, 6 months of, rebuilding, or sorting things out, 6 months of rebuilding, and then 6 months of growing, and then it takes off at about the 18-month mark. And, we've done this many times, hundreds of clients, and, if it's the business organisation is in B, it's a bit of a hard slog to get it back into A.
And they've got to be committed.
They've got to be committed, 100%. And we've got lots of A customers that have been with us, still with us, even 18 years down the track, from making sure that they've got the right environment and the right team in place. So I hope Allyson and I have answered some good questions there as we go through this webinar. Feel free to put some comments in the chat box. That'd be great. Okay, so our next topic is about how can you grow your business through best practice HR. So, Al, you know all this, so I'll let you go through it.
Yeah. So this is part of our 12 steps of best practice anyway. So we always start with mission, vision, purpose and values. If you don't have them, then it's a lot more difficult to make sure that everyone's on the same page and that they're living and breathing the culture that you want to have organically within the business. Organisational charts fall into play next. Again, not too dissimilar. You need to make sure that who's who and what your future is going to look like. Really succinct roles and responsibilities. Make really clear and position descriptions and make sure that the clarity is there. Do your pre-employment due diligence, so recruitment and induction, and do you check references and make sure that visas are correct and those kind of things. Payroll and rostering, do you know what awards may or may not apply to your business? It's not a one-fit-all kind of shop, and you might have different awards. And do you understand what the National Employment Standards are, or the NES as we refer to it? Policies, procedures, obviously, I say obviously, that's because I'm in the history, but they are also really good to have and make sure that they're updated every 2 years or so. And lucky last here on this page, we've got performance discussions. So make sure you have performance reviews and set the expectations. But don't be afraid to have those discussions whenever you need to. You don't need to wait until a review to have a conversation around someone's performance.
And we did our reviews actually last week. Yeah, so which was really, really good. And I think the big one for me is that mission, vision, purpose and values. It just drives the behaviour, right? And, we have a wonderful team, HR team here at KBA. And one of the things we're very big on is putting them into the position description, right? Now, I know it sounds, well, okay, why would I do that? Well, it drives behaviours. Like integrity is one of ours, right? And if people don't show integrity, well, pretty much you're breaching your employment agreement with us, right? Yeah. So collaboration's a big one, for us. So again, I can't stress that enough to make sure that you do that. You're doing a good job, Al. I'm going to get you to go through the next one.
Thank you. So to continue on, we've got training and development. Again, you want to make sure that you're staff are, they're exposed to learning and opportunities so that they're not stagnant, recognition and praise where that's due, address the poor performance. As I said, the previous page, you don't have to wait for a review. Address the misconduct. This is so important. Just do not let it slide. And we understand sometimes these conversations are hard, and a lot of time they are hard conversations to be had. Manage the termination process. Make sure you follow through on everything that you have to do as a company. Keep really good records of all of your documents with regards to staff records. You never know who may come and do an audit. Either WorkSafe or Fair Work can do a random audit, and you would have to provide them with all of your documentation. Demonstrate professional standards and set the tone from the top. So.
And I think at the end of the day, like, we want to employ good quality people in our business. And I look at it and go, we can offer a person a job role and, we don't have an update employment contract, or we don't have a proper outline of the role or responsibility position description, or an org chart explains who in the zoo, because that is all part of the induction. So this is all about best practice. Now, I realised when I stopped things before and restarted again, the chat box was not open, but the chat box is now open. So if you've got any questions or comments, please put them in the chat box, because we'd love to get some feedback, and I apologise for that. Okay, so we talk about managing employees and your responsibilities to minimise risk. So risk is a big thing, right? So what we talk about, how do you maximise sustainability? How do you grow?
Yeah.
But then how do you minimise your risk? And unfortunately, if you're looking at that slide right now, 90% of people who ring us have one of these problems. Yeah.
Or they don't know about it.
Although, well, I would say most of our clients will call us, or they don't know about it, but it's a problem that's actually been created, right? So this thing around, bullying and harassment, to me, I feel like, I feel that it's still happening in today, right?
It is.
And again, like, you just cannot do that in today's world. And this sexual harassment, positive duty. So what is positive duty?
Positive duty, and it's something that's been rolled out right across the country. Some states already had it. The rest came into play 1st of December last year. And it's now where companies, employers, have the duty to make sure that they do everything that is humanly possible to even make sure that it doesn't happen in the first place. So no longer you have to follow through. You have to make sure that you put processes in place. You already have to have those processes. Now there's a reporting responsibility. You have to make sure that you do everything you humanly can possibly do to make sure it doesn't even happen. So there's that. Discrimination, equal opportunity. I mean, that's something that we always have to deal with. Psychosocial, as Colin said, is the word of the last couple of months, and it's just getting larger and larger. The right to disconnect, which has been in for a little while. So that's where employees have the right to not be contacted out of work. There's some funny nuances with that on how to do it. We're more than happy to have conversations with people. Pay secrecy. I just had this 2 weeks ago. An employer didn't even know that his employee was allowed to talk about their pay, and he wanted to give him a warning. I said, you cannot do that. And make sure you follow a fair and process with termination as well.
Yeah. So if we just have a look at the psychosocial, so is it true, like the work cover claims? And just to give you an idea, normally we get 1 or 2 a month, right?
Yeah.
But as of the 2nd of February, we had like 8 on the go.
Yeah.
And it's just, so we're seeing more and more of this, right? So again, I go back to the professionalisation of the business, having a strategy, a pathway to follow, give them direction, get them busy doing something that's proactive rather than reactive. Right. But, if we talk about, things around like the sexual harassment, the positive duty, even the right to disconnect, all of these here, if I'm emailing somebody at 11 o'clock at night and expecting an answer, and, the office hours are, for an example, 8:30 to 5, that is unreasonable.
Absolutely.
I might have you got to think about what is reasonable. So for me, 8 till 6 is pretty reasonable. And if there is something as urgent, I would text a staff member to have a conversation first. But I've got to realise that, they've got a life too. But this is happening out there, which is, a lot of people are business owners and managers are sending emails overnight time. There is a feature you can do where you can do a delay send, so they get at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. And then at least you get that off your plate. You can move on to the next task.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
But all of these here are now point to psychosocial. right?
Yeah.
And psychosocial is like WHS. So for those who don't know, if I stood on a chair and fell off a chair and broke my arm in the workplace, I have a physical injury. You can see that I've broken my arm, and it's in plaster and it's strapped up. But psychosocial is mental health. And mental health is the way people speak to each other, the way people are treated, the longer hours, fatigue, all the things that are on that very first slide. So again, we want to have the best team in the company. We want to make sure we've got a great workplace, and we need to be mindful of our guys. And in my company, our team work. They work, and I ask sometimes, why are you doing so much? Right? Like, you need to take a bit of a break. You need to try and do that, which is goes against the grain of actually producing the results. But we want to make sure that there is some form of work-life balance for the team. And I understand you can go above and beyond. We want that to happen, but it can't be like that every day. 7 days a week. We don't want that at all. No, not at all. Okay, so let me talk about, your commitment to grow. So communication is the key in everyone being on the same page. This goes back to the leader, right? You've got to be constantly communicating, taking your team in the direction of where you want to take them. And that will create a positive culture, right? So again, we know this through COVID, and COVID's a long time ago, but, for the clients that we worked with, had good communication, they kept their staff relaxed and settled, right? For the clients that panicked and shut down on their team, then, that created other problems in itself. I think little things like remembering things like anniversaries, birthdays, achievements that guys do. And achievements could be, someone who staff member buying a house or getting a dog or having a baby. I mean, I know this is small stuff, but again, sometimes, if you really want to create that humanization in your business and have a really good business, then I think it's important that we know what's going on with the team. I hate that mass conversation, right? That comes in on it, right? But there's a few ladies in this room that just absolutely love it, right? And it's conversation. And again, that's part of the culture as well. Acknowledge team and individual performance, I think, is really important. Praise ongoing training and development. I think it's really, really important. In my book, we do it in our business, we coach this, but someone goes on a training course. Like, we had sent 3 people on a public speaking course. They had to come back and do a presentation to the business, right? And that is part of, taking that training and turning it into something. Recognition and praise on the things that matter, and support the well-being of your team, I think, is really, really important. And that's our phone rings a lot with, staff who ring in sick, or staff who, haven't turned up on a shift or whatever it may be. But the first thing is their well-being. Are they okay? Right. That's the first thing. Now, I understand if it's common practice that they do it, or like have every Monday off of a weekend. Well, that's a different story. And that's why you call Allyson and the HR team, because they can sort all that out for you. Okay, so when we talk about things around linking strategy linked to HR best practice. So again, I'll get you to take you through us.
Thank you. Yeah. So set the pathway for the team to follow. Make sure that it's supported by HR best practice. Take the team on a journey where they're contributing to the overall result. Keep them motivated by demonstrating continuous improvement. Make sure that they're not stagnant. Ensure your support is seen as a positive influence in the business, not a negative one. So don't just be the reactive, be proactive as well. Develop future leaders within. Make sure you've got a succession plan, and be able to make sure you've got, make sure that each employee can have a pathway. You can have a skill set pathway set up. Focus on the positives and less on the negatives. Obviously, that should speak for itself. Address things quickly. We can't say this enough. So do not let them fester, and do not let them blow out. The longer you leave it, the more things stew, and especially if it's between one or more employees, it's a lot harder to bring it back. So make sure that it's dealt with straight away so that everyone can move on. Have fun, enjoy the team. Yeah. I think that's a big one. I've actually written something here, which is really important, that HR support needs to be seen as a positive influence in the business. So, what typically happens is when a client comes to us with a problem, and my team go in there and sort the problem out, and sometimes people are terminated. Some people see it as a good thing. Some people see it, oh, here comes HR. They're just here to terminate people, right? So, for the clients that we say we take from good to great, and we're really embedded in their business,
it's more proactive HR rather than reactive,
Yeah.
right? And again, I've written this in my book. We have various different packages and stuff like that. But I commonly say to a client, you got two choices. You could pay us, 20K over a 12-month or 2-year period to get best practice in your business, or you can keep doing what you're doing, and then when something blows up, you'll just blow 20 grand on the lawyers,
Yeah.
not alone, let alone the payout. So I think it's about getting that mindset. Wages are one of our biggest expense, if not the biggest expense in our business, and hence why at our business we're an outsourced HR business with business strategy and culture, because one of your biggest expenses is exactly what we work on. So again, I hope you got something out of that topic, and feel free if you want to add some comments into the chat box. We'd love to chat to you, and it should be open now. So strategy, which is around linked to HR's best practice, which is again, what we're working on. So if I just go to that, we're going to go into now what can HR do to protect your business. So this is where we get into the real nitty gritty stuff. So again, we go into a lot of companies and we go and have a look at, and I encourage Al and the team to go and do what we call a HR audit. So we look at things like employment contracts, position descriptions, and some policies. That's a really good example. What we commonly see is an employment contract is so far out of date, or it's been copied and pasted from a friend's business. We've had it where someone's actually copied employment agreement from a major corporate, right? Yeah. That said, if we make someone redundant, we're going to pay them out 3 months. And they're a small business. They didn't have to do that, but because it was in the contract, they had to actually do that. So I think it's really important you actually understand the rules around employing 1 to 15 staff and over 15 staff, and making sure that we've got the right contracts in place, position descriptions, and then the policies. You definitely need to have a policy of today around psychosocial. You definitely have a policy around AI, like how people are using AI, because that AI in your business could be an asset. It also could be a threat as well if it's not used right. So again, I think smoking policies, all the common policies that are there. But around positive duty and around, the right to disconnect, all of that is part of legislation, and you're expected to actually have this in place, and you educate your team about it. That's what it's expected to have. Look at what you need to work on. So we always talk about updated position descriptions. Commonly, how often do we go and look at an org chart? The org chart is 3 years old. Yeah, 3-4 years old. Yeah. People who started in the company who had a position description in a particular role have now moved 3 times within the business. No update, no KPIs, updated KPIs. Then we talk about policies, procedures. We want to do policy workshops so people understand, what these policies mean. So rather than just read a 2-page document, what do they actually mean, and how does that affect the business that we're actually working in? So I'm always pushing the HR team to do these policy workshops. And we talked about record keeping with signed documents and conversations, because when something turns to crap and someone goes to Fair Work or goes to a lawyer like Morris Blackburn or Slater and Gordon, they all test the water with the company, with you. And if you don't have the record keeping right and you don't have the signed documentation right, then they will open it up and do everything they possibly can to make your life difficult.
Well, you're already behind the 8 ball.
You are.
So if you don't have those records, as soon as a claim gets put through, the onus is on the company to prove that allegation wrong. So unless you've got all of this in writing, it makes arguing against that claim a lot more difficult.
And that's why we recommend 2 or 3 different HRIS softwares, right?
Correct.
Human resource information systems to put information into, because if you've got a system, and it's like any system, you've got to put the information in and set it up right. But we have clients that use some of the products like Enable HR or Connect Team, and in 3 seconds they can produce a complete file of all the notes, all the record, all the above, and it's professional. And I look at it, if I'm doing a performance review with you, Al, we want to reflect on the past and then come back and look at conversations we've had on the future. Again, it is all about best practice. I can't push that enough. I want to take you through this framework, which is, we're part of HR Coach Australasia, and this is a company that we partnered with when we started the business, 18 years ago. But one of the things they talked about is to be proactive. Number one is you need to make sure you have some form of organizational measurement and planning. So this is around, our org chart, roles, responsibilities, even things like, and I'm very fresh because I finalised 3 chapters of my book yesterday, so I'm very, very in tune here. But even things like setting up an org chart with vacant roles, like for future leaders and stuff like that. What's our plan of where we want to go? What are some of these vacant roles? And you put it on the org chart that it's vacant, which I think is really important. Then to minimise our risk, we look at our HR process and systems. Do we have it in place? Do we have everything right? We look at number 3 there, which is governance. That's what it's all about: contracts, policies, procedures, all the things that's going to minimise your risk. Then we go over to the other side of that diagram, which talks about performance management. Now, a lot of people think performance management is a dirty word. I'm in trouble, right? It's not. It is a whole end-to-end from recruitment right through to termination of an employee. Performance cancelling is the word that's a naughty word, right? Because if I'm being performance cancelled, then I'm in trouble. And then there's things around workplace improvements, and this is where team building activity comes through, product training, stuff like that you can do to actually improve. All of this contributes to growing a business, right? It's very, very simple. Plan out what you want to do. Make sure you got the HR process right, your governance right, and then let's try and have conversations with our team and work and look at things that we can work on, training sessions, development, and so on. We talk to a lot of small business owners and they say, we don't have time to do the performance reviews, we're too busy. Well, I go, well, okay, hang on a sec. How much is your wage bill right now, right? And are the team actually performing to the expectation of where you want them to perform? Most common answer is no. Well, I go, well, okay, you need to put some investment, some time back into your team so that they may grow.
And how busy are they if they lose their team?
100%. Yeah, lose the IP, right? So, and we've seen that happen. We've seen somebody lose their cool. I actually wrote this in the book yesterday and told the team they were a useless bunch of so-and-so. And within 2 weeks, the team left that particular business owner, and it couldn't recover from that. It tried, but it couldn't recover from it. So it's so important we get this right. So one of the things that we like to do is verify, and we recommend you do something like this. We're here to help and share some information with you. But I think it's important that we look at how we can actually create some sort of engagement survey. So if you really want to test the life of your business and put a thermometer in it and see how we're tracking, you can see that you've got this strategic action model, and you can see how it works. So you've either got strategy, high strategy, or you've got low strategy, high action activity, or low action activity. If I go around the clock, if I've got high action activity and high action where everyone's on the same page, everything's linked, we should be green and growing, right?
Yeah.
We should be team
well-oiled machine.
Well-oiled machine, as we say. Yeah. If I'm in the yellow, it could be department or a management issue. If I'm in the red, then it means that I've got a lot of activity going, a lot of action, but no one's got following any form of strategy, or they might not understand the strategy. Therefore, we just keep like a gerbil on a wheel going round and round in circles. Obviously, if we've got low action, low strategy, then I might be exiting the business. And if I'm a startup, well, I've got my strategy, but now I've got to get the activity going to get it going. So we do lots of these surveys, and you can have a look at some of this on our website. But if you think about this, just this color map that you got here, and you get a score, and that's how it works. But if I'm in the green, and if I'm at 75% plus, then basically that means that I'm in the green, and you're benchmarked with another 5,000 odd businesses. I'm in the green, and what it means is that 75%, but people come to work 75% happy. If it's in the yellow, it could be a management issue. It's in the red, it's high risk, and normally there's a revolving door if it's in the red. We've got customers that have got 86%, 90%, right? So and we're not just talking about clients that have got 5 or 6 staff. We've got one client's got 70 odd staff, and they got 86%, which is an amazing result.
Huge.
And what reflects on that is the fact that this particular client only lost 3 staff members last year, right? So people want to come to work because they want to be there, and this person's done a lot of investment into making sure that the team is trained right, and the communication is 100% clear. I cannot echo that any more than I've pretty much done. Is there anything you want to add to that, Al?
No, you've said it very clearly.
Yeah.
And we do. We we follow that very closely here
Yep.
as well.
Okay, so if you want to talk about training development, yeah?
So yeah, I mean, this is where my baby comes out. So staff outcomes from training development. So they get the satisfaction, they feel valued and empowered. They've got a purpose, so they know what they're doing and they know how to do it. Become more productive and proactive. A lot of people don't realise that, that all comes. So productivity is incredible for the success of the business. More job satisfaction, again, as Colin said before, they're less likely to go home and complain to their partner or to their friends and family. More rewards and better outcomes is another thing to make sure that they get as well. So
yeah, I think there's some real good payoffs if we actually if we're constantly training our team. And again, like when we talk about the bottom line of the business, if we're making mistakes, if you've got staff members that are making mistakes, we can tell them off. We can say, this is not right. But one of the things I'm very, very big on is if we make a mistake, well, how do we try and prevent that mistake? And case studies are some of the best forms of training. So we've made a mistake. Let's go back and rewind. Let's go back to the start. How could have this happened, or how could we have prevented it? And I think, in today's world, we need to start using more so, challenging our staff, getting them to use, their own emotional intelligence to work out what the actual solution is. Now, if I've got somebody that's been in the business for, 7 years, like Al, she knows everything inside and out of this business because, she's been here for such a long time. But if I've got staff that are fairly new, right, and there's an expectation with lots of companies that they put somebody on, they give them 3 days induction and they want them firing. Yeah. And, we say to all of our team members, it'll take you 18 months to learn the KBA craft.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And it's so true, right? So because again, you're learning in the first 6 months, you experiment in the next 6 months,
and then you get confidence.
You get your confidence, and then you get it, right? So again, I think it's really important that when we do training development, what is it for? Why are we doing it? And then how are we going to get the best out of it? And the big one for me is, when they finish the training, how do we sit them down and go, well, what did you get out of the training? And then what are you going to put into practice from the training so the training doesn't walk out with the trainer?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, we've seen that over and over too. They get trained and then nothing happens.
Yeah.
There's no implementation of that training.
And that was a great training session is what they say. It was a great training session, right? So I'm massive on, what are 5 things you got away from takeaways from the training that you actually want to put into practice to improve yourself.
Yeah.
And again, that is, I want to know about that. And again, that's part of record keeping. That's part of follow-up. And no one's in trouble. We just want to make sure that we've invested in you, how you're going to get to that next level. So, it's all through my book about becoming an employer of choice. And I think, again, on Friday, I had a business owner come to me on Friday. And they're struggling a little bit with getting staff, right? So I told him, look, I'm fully booked. I'm off to New Zealand next week. But 6 o'clock, that's me. I don't know why I did it, right? But this person was a client of ours 8 years ago, and like everything, we stay in contact with them. And he goes, look, I just really need your help. So we had a conversation. But in employer choice, what does it look like? And this was part of the conversation. Like it's all about the environment that you create, right? So when people walk into a business, it's like, what is the environment? And you think about it when a customer walks into the business. Does the business smell success or see success and hear it? Do they have that feeling, or do they have that feeling where there's tension? And we all know what I'm talking about when we go into, some other business or a restaurant or a cafe and we go through that experience. It's important that you provide good direction of where the company is heading. This is where we're heading. This is where we're going. This is what we need to do. And I'm okay if people don't want to be on the train, when they're going into, where it's heading. Yeah. As the book Jim Collins says, get off the bus, right? I'm okay with that because we need to keep moving and we need to keep evolving. And especially around technology now that's coming through, like this AI, all the above, systems, processes, we've got to make sure that we're staying, ahead of the market. I also about lead with your passion, create the pathway for the team to follow, recognise team and individual effort. And we've said that throughout this whole presentation. Celebrate the milestone wins. When something big happens or you've achieved something that you've set goals and objectives with, then let's just take 5 minutes with the team or an hour with the team or a luncheon with the team to go back and go, hey, let's just, look at what we've actually achieved here. have fun with your team. And again, that big one, we're always, this is really the quote of this year, isn't it? Check on the team's well-being. Make sure your staff are okay because of the psychosocial laws.
Yeah.
I think is
Don't
really
just wait
important.
for Are You Okay Day.
Yes, no, you do it
Make it every day.
every day,
Yeah.
making sure it's true. Okay, now, do we have any questions? So I'm hoping this chat box is going to work, and we've got some leading questions of typically what people say when they ring in or ask us when they ring in. So I'm going to hand this over to Al. I'm going to ask you the question, but so Al, how do I address people with bad attitude?
Well, that's a very grey question, to be honest,
I know.
because it's not that simple. It depends on, okay, why do they have a bad attitude? Are they unaware of the expectations? Are they unaware of what the business's mission, vision, values are?
Yep.
Are they not living and breathing your culture? So have they been promoted and not given guidance? Have they been set up to fail? So there's lots of answers to that question. So there would need to be questions asked to be able to work out whether they've actually got a bad attitude or if they've been set up to fail in some sort of way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or maybe the instructions are not clear. Yeah,
Right.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
And we do see people that companies that have employed people, they're not 100% right.
Yeah.
They've employed on the eyeball theory. You look good, I'm going to put you on. And they're not part of the team. The attitude is there. They're common things. They're running late and all that sort of stuff. But what surprises me is there's this probationary period. Yeah, and it's 6 months. Yeah.
Well, it depends.
Depends.
If it's 15 or more employees, it's 15 months. Less, it's 12 months.
It's 12 months, right? So again, I've got bad attitude. But how many times does someone ring us and say, look, it's at 6 months mark. Can I get rid of it?
Yeah.
Right? That's a common thing that happens in our business. And we ask why, because their attitude sucks. Well, did it suck when you first started? And, and what did you do to try and fix that?
Yeah.
And, and we say, what did you do to fail them? Because they were good for the first couple of months and then terrible afterwards.
What changed?
So what changed? What was it within the business that actually changed? So that's just a question we want to put out there. Okay, so this is another big one, Al. I have a person who has personal issues outside of work. What can I do?
You can do a lot.
Yep.
So obviously part of that check-in with the employee, are you okay? If somebody has personal issues and it's impacting their work, don't be afraid to have a conversation.
Yep.
Obviously, they may or may not feel comfortable in sharing with you what the personal issues are, but you can offer support in a variety of ways. You can offer for them to take some time off. You can offer to provide them with some providers that might be able to help them. Recommend that they speak to their medical team, and that could be their GP, their psychologist, whoever it might be. And even if they need to take some time off, I've often done this, and you don't need to have a return to work plan just for work cover. You can also set up a return to work plan for somebody who needs to have time off, and then that way you can work with the employee and their GP, and all three parties can work together to be able to get that employee back to work pre-issues, and they come back safely as well.
Yeah, and I think, look, as an employer, I think, you sit back and go, well, they're going through a hard time. And, for me, it's like, I actually like the person. I want the person to work. So we're going to support them. So again, I think it's just so important that you get to know your team and you check in on your team as well. You don't want to get into the nitty-gritties of their personal life, but definitely you need to have a conversation to make sure that they're okay, like you said. Okay, I'll look at another one. I have someone bullying somebody else in my business, and I'm scared that this person will leave. This actually happened a couple of weeks ago. How do I address this?
Are we scared the bully's going to leave or the other person?
No, the other person's going to leave. But they want them both in the business, but it's just not working.
Well, I mean, straight away, again, that's one of those things that you cannot let fester. You've got to be able to follow through. My recommendation is to make sure that you follow procedural fairness and start an investigation. So if there's a bullying case, then make sure you've got a complaint put through and then follow the correct process to be able to work that and do it quickly. Don't make it last 2 months long. That impacts everybody involved. Try and get it done within 2 weeks at the most, and then come up with whatever the outcome will be and what you can help to support both employees, whether that means some improvement things or management or revisiting policies or, and you can always stand staff down if it's in cases of serious allegations, and we've recommended that many times. Just be mindful, if you do stand someone down, you will need to pay them for that time, but then that might help the situation in the interim, where the other person can feel more comfortable as well.
And some mediation too can work too as well. So again, having a third party actually do that. Okay, well answered. Okay, we have a staff member who's just gone on work cover, and I need help. I need help to resolve this quickly. So, and what I mean by this, Al, right? And again, we know this has come from one of the other team members in the business. They've gone on work cover. The owner really didn't know that there was any issue there, and they don't want the work cover premium, and they want them to come back to work. So what do we do in that situation?
If it's already been submitted with work cover, it's very unlikely that you'll be able to get that claim stopped so that you can do it internally. If you do know that there's something that could potentially become a claim, then don't be afraid to have conversations. And we've often had clients who have self-insured where they've covered the expenses so that it hasn't gone into their work cover premiums. As we know, that can impact them for the next 5 or so years. With regards to getting it resolved quickly, make sure you obviously you have a legal responsibility to make sure you keep in touch with that particular employee. I would also reach out to your work cover agents. Some states it's with work cover directly, other states you have agents. Hopefully you've all got a good one, and to make sure that you keep those lines of communication open. So you can make sure that all 3 parties, not too dissimilar to the non-work cover return to work, make sure that you work with everybody to be able to have a good understanding of how you can best get that employee back to work in time.
Yep. And the big one, the bottom there, which we've left till last for a reason, what is psychosocial and how can I ensure that I protect my business?
Yep. So psychosocial, as per our previous slide, it can be all of the concerns around somebody's mental health. So it's not a physical injury, it's a mental health injury. And what you can do to ensure that you protect your business, you can have, it's great to have all the policies and procedures, but that's not good enough. You need to be able to make sure that your team, everybody in it has an understanding of what it is and their responsibilities. Make sure you do training and have workshops and make sure that that's done on a consistent basis as well.
And that's why I always start with mission, vision, purpose, and values, right? Because if we're following our mission in taking a business from good to great, and we follow our vision in building a team of highly skilled professionals that can create everlasting partnerships with our clients, and we follow our purpose is taking our customer on a mission. Taking our customer on a purpose of employee engagement. To ensure that, because we know that performance and engagement creates great results. And then, things around integrity, collaboration, commitment, whatever your values are, if we're all following that, then that will minimize the psychosocial issues within a business. And again, if you've got a business that is not 100% on the proactive side of HR, that's why we talked about why HR matters, then, go back to your current provider, or ideally contact us, because we would be more than happy to try and help support your business so it goes from good to great, which is what our mission is. I just want to while we're moving through is, I'm about to release a book that has a lot of this in the book. And it's about making sure that we're in a situation where we're proactive with our business, and that the saying, the reading, as you can see, the title of the book, Your Business Beyond Tomorrow. But the big one, it's either you run your business or it'll run you, and you can't run a business without a team. That's the whole idea of the process of the book. And if you're not putting time and effort into your team, then what's going to happen is the business will end up owning you. I hope you've enjoyed our webinar, and we've got some events that are coming up. So next webinar is on the 16th of March, and it is about developing future leaders in your company. And, this is a big, if I can say, the work I did most of last year was this workshop. Yeah. So it was, we've got a team, and, we've got our managers and they're going fine, but, what about that next layer? And I've got a company that's wants to invest in me one-on-one with somebody, it's expensive, but for a one-on-one, it's more better in a group, but wants the one-on-one because sees the value of just, making sure that happens. So 16th of March, Developing Future Leaders, 20th of April, it's about the psychosocial hazards, as we spoke about. And then we've also got a management workshop, which is in person, an effective management workshop, which we hold here in Nidri. We're right next to the airport. We have many clients that fly staff in from all over Australia, and they come and do the course, stay the night, and the night before, and then head home. Again, if you need help, then we recommend that you do that. If you would like some information based on what we've spoken about, 3 key things that we spoke about was around that, HR best practice. Use a free download there, checklist of what to do. Learn more about, how to create better people and culture within your business, how to get that culture right. There's a free download on that. And then there's also, if you want to know some information about the engagement surveys, you can find some information out about that. So you can go and have a look at that at your own accord, and then feel free to give us a call if you want to contact us to get involved. These webinars are free. We do them for free because we're very passionate about what we do. We want to see lots of businesses out there successful. We want to see lots of teams out there successful. So if you've got value of what Allyson and I have done today, then please give us a Google review, a good Google review. If we've disappointed you anyway, please give us an email and I'll chat to you one-on-one basis. So apologies for the start. So we're in a new office, and I did say that the last one, but the air conditioning above my head, I think, is what created that.
The echo.
The echo, yeah. So we opened the door and it fixed it. So I had nothing to do with technology. It was the actual door. So thanks very much, guys. Enjoy the week ahead, and thank you very much on behalf of Allyson and I.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.